Welcome back to the final round. Stocks are higher here, but off their highs of the session after we've had some mixed messages on what's happening with the stimulus coming out of Washington, D.C. So we're holding on to gains of just about 0.7% on the S&P, the Dow, and the NASDAQ up about 0.3, outpacing all of those majors right now. Check out Roku. Shares of Roku were up some 5%, just off a 52-week high, hit today an all-time high of 228.33. Helping push that name higher today, Needham out with a street high call on Roku, and I want to bring in analyst Laura Martin to discuss her call here. So Laura, going through your note, a lot of good graphics in here. One that stood out to me that's just kind of like basic, I guess, but it's always good to see, is how many people bought TVs during the pandemic.
I thought that's MPD data, and it was fascinating that connected TV sales were like 1% until COVID, and now they're up 20 to 50% every single week during COVID. Those numbers shocked me, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I did buy a TV myself, but why does that, for people to understand why it matters to Roku? Because I think like the advertising part of it, the monetization of it, a lot of people don't really get, like, you just buy a TV and it has Roku on it. Why is that so bullish that people are buying smart TVs for Roku in the long run?
So 1 out of 3 connected TVs has a Roku operating system, which means when you turn it on, the first screen you see says Roku, and there's a big ad unit right there where they'll sell ads to like Disney Plus to tell you to go try Disney Plus or HBO Max. So that first page of real estate is super valuable. And so it's got an ad load. And then of course, because you have this growing installed base that's growing much faster than pre-COVID. As advertising demand comes back, the engine sitting behind Roku will be much bigger, much more able to generate revenue, because every TV it has in the field, it gets about 200 hours a month of viewing. So those are all new ad units that weren't there pre-COVID because those TVs hadn't been bought yet. So that's the power of the installed base acceleration thanks to COVID for Roku.
Laura, Dan Roberts here. You mentioned TVs now that are smart TVs and come preloaded with all this stuff. So obviously a lot of people, if they're buying a new TV, they don't need the physical Roku device. And for a while, we used to hear that maybe that would be a problem for Roku. The idea that, Roku was your portal to the other connected TV app, the rest of the world. And so if you have a TV that has all of them, do you really need the Roku app as much? It sounds like that isn't the case. That's not a problem for Roku. Maybe you can explain that for us. And then the second thing I just want to ask you while we have you is whether you still think that Roku eventually could be an acquisition target for someone.
So the answer to the second one's yes. And then the first one, in terms of sticks versus TVs. So when Roku first came public, it was primarily selling sticks, but those sticks are really competitive in a way with like Amazon Fire Stick or the Chromecast. Roku's done a really good job of building itself into televisions, which have a 5-year average life. And now it does both. We have a very high-end Samsung in our house. And when we bought Disney Plus, the Samsung, which was 3 years old, couldn't decrypt the new Disney 4K encryption. So we bought a Roku stick, and it turned our what used to be a smart TV smart enough to take Disney Plus now. So that's how people are using Roku sticks. And from a TV point of view, they're actually just buying Roku TVs. So both of those represent installed base where Roku, viewers can watch Roku and buy ad units and basically watch ad units.
Laura, what company could you envision trying to buy Roku?
Before the 450-page House subcommittee report, I would have said Amazon would have been a natural because it has a strong offshore presence, and Roku really dominates the U.S. over-the-top ecosystem. They have 50% of total connected TV viewers as of September. So that would have made a lot of sense for Amazon. Now that I think those FANGs are going to have trouble buying other companies, I can definitely see, like, Comcast has tried to buy these guys in the past. I can see somebody buying them as a strategic play to have an overnight over-the-top service with 43 million homes as clients.
What about a Walt Disney Company?
Maybe. Right. It's really hard to think about when the Walt Disney Company is going to have earnings power again. So because we still have theme parks closed and cinemas closed, and basically 50% of their revenue is zero right now. So it's hard to imagine they would have the financial wherewithal in the next year or two, until they're no longer COVID affected, to buy a $20 billion market cap company in streaming.
And I know you like this company. You see a lot of growth ahead, a lot of potential. What is the biggest threat to Roku, do you think? Who has the arrows that can? I mean, frankly, like, I have this TV. I don't really think I'm ever on Roku. I'm stuck in like that Apple ecosystem. But what do you see as the biggest threat to Roku being able to actually hit on all cylinders?
I think what's complementary, so Apple TV really targets like the wealthiest 30% of Americans, and Roku really is the average household income of 65,000 and lower. So a realistic competitor would have had to have been like a Walmart or a Target or somebody that really targets that base. I'm less like concerned about high-end competitors like Amazon Prime, which again, wealthiest 30%, and similar Apple, even upscale from that, the Apple TV. So I sort of think Roku is for the everyman, the Budweiser crowd, which is a big mass market, and ad driven. I really think they depend on AVOD, which are advertising video on demand. So really their competitor would have to come from that world. So maybe a Tubi or Pluto, but I would think you'd buy Roku rather than try to compete them away, because they have 43 million installed base of homes. That feels valuable to me.
Pretty valuable. The company now has a market cap getting close to 28 billion. Laura Martin with Needham, thanks so much for joining us to discuss your note on Roku on our call of the day.
Thank you.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.